Welcome back, everybody. We're going to wrap things up and kind of move back to what we were talking about at the top of the show with Brexit and I mean, social media. You wanted to mention. I guess my 2 cents on social media is social media pervades everything at this point. But the problem with social media is that it's a mile wide and an inch deep. You know, if I believed the folks that were in my news feed on the surface, it would be either a Trump takeover or Bernie had burned the White House to the ground, right? So I mean, because that's just kind of how which is neither the reality nor even close to a cogent political analysis. So I don't really worry about social media necessarily, except to provide a platform for people to get messages and stuff like that, at least to get sort of amplify the voice that they're trying to use to talk with. But the comparisons to the Trump-Clinton election and the Brexit are interesting because people are worried now that this sort of thinking is going to give the Trump supporters some gas to get going because of how similar the messages of the Leave campaign to Donald Trump have been, and that's going to fuel him to sort of a consolidation of power here in the country, in the U.S., and achieve a general election victory in November. I guess before I'll let you respond to that, but my thought is America is a lot more diverse. We have a lot more people. We have a lot more integrated communities in this country. We're not as stratified the way that that Great Britain is along racial, ethnic, and historical lines. Folks that come here are more assimilated. We seem to do a better job of that. And the anxieties that we feel about immigration or jobs or whatever are not as keen. They're more diffuse in this country. Not to say that we don't feel them keenly, but they're spread out amongst a lot of different kinds of groups. And I just don't see. I see that diversity and that assimilation as being kind of a bulwark against the more centralized nationalism that Donald Trump has been espousing throughout his campaign. I think that he would have been a good surrogate in England. I don't think that message is going to translate nearly as one-to-one as people are fearing that it will. What do you think?
Yeah, well, I agree. I agree with your assessment that he would be doing better over in England with the Brexit. Part of the issue is the social media is so powerful and it's such almost just a straightforward democracy on social media. Part of the thing with Donald Trump is, and we've talked about this, all we need is one good terror attack, and that's really going to tank Hillary. And it's going to bump up Trump. Didn't work that way this time. Trump tanked quite a bit. Now, interestingly, Hillary didn't really have a bump. She remained steady, and Trump fell. That tells me several different things about this campaign. One, Hillary is just going to be consistent. She has probably reached her zenith. She might get another bump after the Democratic Congress. She might have something else that happens before the election. However, if she didn't get a bump from this, I don't know where she could get a bump. Two, this election is now, I think, Donald Trump's to lose. I think that if he fired his advisors and everything else. Three, here's an interesting study from NBC News and the Wall Street Journal. And they're talking about Donald Trump's strengths compared to Hillary Clinton's. Now, this isn't a good pull for either side. I'm not saying that is good news for either one of them, but it's worse news for Hillary Clinton. They talk about changing Washington. The only time Trump is over 50% of approval. 53% of people think he will change Washington. 23% think Hillary will. And then you get honest, straightforward. Now, keep in mind, they're in the 40s and Clinton's in the 30s. I mean, for honest, straightforward, dealing with the economy, standing up for America, the gun issue, terrorism, and national security. The bottom line is Trump has a little bit of a lead in these polls, but this should also tell you the state of our the state of our government when we have two people running that can't even break 50%, particularly one who's been a first lady, a senator, and secretary of state.
Well,
it's incredible to me. I mean, it's not like this came from some, right wing hack rag. It came from NBC.
Well, the most recent poll that I saw yesterday had Hillary 51, Donald 39. And so it's fascinating. It's fascinating that a guy who's getting polling at 39% can be said that this is his election to lose.
No, really, because he's the one. Because this whole thing happened. This is a big deal in Orlando. He bungled it. There's no other word for it. He bobbled that thing and dropped it. I mean, a basket full of eggs right at his feet, broke them all. And he did. He plummeted. And you would think that Hillary would bump up. The other thing is this is a poll about who do you think is going to be better at this. Mm-hmm. And they're still terrible. They're both terrible.
So I don't know. I'm not too worried about that. The Bernie folks are starting to come home. We've seen that in the last couple of days. We got conventions.
Yeah, I think it's funny the guy that railed against the establishment rejoined the establishment the moment that he lost. So
yeah, well, so did Ted Cruz. I mean, so that's how it works, and we know that's how it works. And I'm glad that it works that way. If you guys want to find a really cool piece on why we're where we're at, there's an Atlantic article it's super long, and it's basically about the need for a professional political class in this country and how we've gotten away from that. Basically, the stuff that I've been saying on here for the last few months about, hey, let's get some people that know what they're doing rather than just want to throw rocks at the house until it falls over.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks everybody for tuning in. We want to thank all of our sponsors and thank all of our listeners. Des Moines Anesthesia, Halo Capital, the Venus Law Firm, Bertrosian Associates. We want to thank you, our loyal listeners, because without you, we couldn't do what we do. Next week, we're going to be back because there's a whole pile of stuff that we're going to be talking about next week that has happened, but we weren't able to talk about it today. Thanks, everybody. We will be back after this week.
Hi, I'm Representative Tom Shaw, and I love these guys. Both of them.
Love these guys. Get over here. Love both of them.